إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله اللهم صل على أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليًا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليًا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير الأعمال حي على خير الأعمال الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله اللهم اجعل بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اجعل قلبي بارا وشقارا ورزق دارا ولادي أبرارا واجعل إذن قبر نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مستقرا وقرارا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم كما قال عز شأن كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزو عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خير يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شر يره نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفوه تفضل ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينته النجاة واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرقا وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وعروة وثقى فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خير يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شر يراه صدق الله العلي العظيم الله Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Greetings and felicitations on this occasion of these ayyam in which we celebrate the prosperous birth of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. In continuation with that, inshallah, and continuation of what we were discussing last week, Last Friday, our discussion was under the topic of Ma'ad and the Day of Judgment. And it was a series of 5 Jum'ahs that we've talked about Tawheed, Adalat, Nubuwwat, Imamat, and eventually Qayamat. And of course, Qayamat is so vast that we couldn't cover it in one Jum'ah. And so there was some discussion that was in the discussion that I had prepared for you was left out. Just to quickly recap of what we had discussed, the first discussion that we had was that there are over 1200 ayat in Quran that talk about Ma'ad. Nearly every other page in Quran has a discussion on the Day of Judgment and Qayamat. So that itself is a testimony that how important this phenomena is and how neglectful we are of this Qayamat while we know it is inevitable. Second discussion that we had was the 5 different effects of belief in Qayamat. That what are some of the consequences and the effects that come about on an individual who has firm belief that there is a day of judgment, that Qayamat will eventually take place. And we talked about those athar, and of course I won't go in the depths of those 5 things that we had mentioned. And then we came to a conclusion that what will be the meaning of someone who goes through this world not realizing that there is a day of judgment that is written, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Malike Yawmiddin, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the master of that day, and he will be held accountable on that day. It's kind of like the example of an individual, and this is one of our teachers who used to give this example. He said, if you ever debate is some person who doesn't believe in Qayamat, and there are many who don't believe in Qayamat, they think that this is the worldly life that we are in, and we all live our lives, and eventually death will overcome us and we'll be buried, and that would be end of it. Without any, hereafter. They only believe in here, and they don't believe in the after. He said, if you ever have a discussion with someone like this, it's a very logical way of discussing this, that you tell them that if you are going out on a road trip, would you keep a spare tire, or would you say, no, it's taking too much room, let me put it out and take some extra stuff that I need for the road? He said an aqlmand would keep an extra pair of tire, or keep an extra tire, spare tire. Why? In case there's a flat. You have a spare tire to go ahead and change. And of course, that's another story. How many people here know how to change? But you have at least a spare tire there available that you can change. But if you never needed this spare tire throughout your trip, you don't lose anything. But if you ever needed this spare tire throughout your trip, you won't feel regret. I had an opportunity. I should have brought it along with me. He said, with that saying said, the same discussion is in the belief of Qayamat. That the ones who believe in Qayamat, they have nothing to lose if, for example, tomorrow there isn't any accountability. But those who don't believe in Qayamat, and if Qayamat ends up happening, then they have everything to lose. And therefore, it's a very logical way of speaking to someone who doesn't believe in Qayamat. Since the belief in resurrection is an important factor in educating humans and a powerful stimulus for good deeds. We talked about that last week. It's a powerful stimulus to do good deeds. One of the reasons why we do good is because of the fear of Qayamat. Amir al-Mu'mineen had mentioned in his khutubat and in his sayings and his pearls of wisdom that he's the only one who said this, that Ilahi ma abadtuka tama'an fil jannah. Oh Allah, I did not worship you because of the greed for the paradise. Wala khawfan minan nar, nor was I afraid of the Jahannam. I worship you because I found you to be worthy of ibadat, and that's the reason I worshipped you. But many, until we get to that level where we start worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we believe that He's worthy of ibadat, I think deep down inside all of us there's a fear that if I don't pray, there's Jahannam. If I pray, then inshallah I have a hope that I will be the recipient of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then this qiyamah becomes what? Becomes that stimulus for us to do good deeds and then serve the society as well. Remember the discussion that we had from the very beginning, salat and zakat. And the explanation was given regarding salat and zakat. Salat is your connection with Rabb, zakat is your connection with the creations. So both go hand in hand. And at the same time, it is a strong deterrent against sin and wrongdoing. We talked about that last week as well. While one of the effects of it is that you have this energy to do good deed because of Qiyamah tomorrow, this is also a good deterrent toward anything that is sinful. You want to stay away from it. You don't want that thing coming close to you because of the fear of Qiyamah. It's an important part of educational issues. It's followed in this way. Quran also talks about it. Only faith and belief that how suspicion of resurrection has deep effects on you. Having a suspicion, forget about someone who doubts it, having a suspicion about it, that also has deep effects. For example, in Surah Mutaffifin it says, أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ. That do they not know that they will be resurrected on a tremendous day? Now the history behind this ayat, I'm not going to go into the tafsir of it, but mankind will stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ. The actions of these individuals portray as if they have no understanding and they have this gaman, they have this zan, suspicion that Qiyamah may or may not happen. Sometimes it may happen to us as well because of the powerful propagation against this phenomena that leads to what? Us doubting ourselves. Do we believe in this? Is it really a true belief that we have? You start casting what? Doubts in your own minds. For example, in Surah Kahf, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. In other words, it says that even hoping for the next world is enough to prevent sins and to do righteousness. So if a person doesn't really have a belief like you and I about Qiyamah, but has a hunch about it, just that hunch itself is enough of a deterrent for him to stay on the right path. Quran declares that the actions and behavior of man take on the color of eternity and will not be separated from him on the day of resurrection. As far as your amal are concerned, يَوْمَ تَجِدُ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا عَمِلَتْ مِنْ خَيْرٍ مُحْضَرًّا وَمَا عَمِلَتْ مِنْ سُوءٍ تَوَدُّ لَوْ أَنَّ بَيْنَهَا وَبَيْنَهُ أَمَدًا بَعِيدًا. That the day of judgment, when your amal will be presented, muhdarra, right away, right in front of you. Whatever good you have done, it will be present in front of you. And as for the evil it has done, it will wish that there were a far distance between it and those things. So right away, this is another hope. That'll be when Qiyamah actually takes place. A believer in resurrection does not consider any good or bad deed to be small. This is where I think you and I can relate more about it. Sometimes we brush aside the sins thinking that it is something which is very minor. We brush aside things thinking that it is something which is very small. How could this be effective? And how could this be, it's not like I've done this, for example. When someone does something small, right away the justification that comes about, it's not like I've done this. It's not like I've taken a life. It's not like I've committed, theft. I've just taken something from here. So right away that justification does what? Makes in the perspective of this insan that little thing, even though it was disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, justified. So therefore, a person came to our Prophet and he said, I wanted to study Quran. Now, of course, Rasulullah, with all the things that he had in his mind, or all the works that was, part of his prophecy, he couldn't just sit down and teach people Quran. And so he appointed one of his companions. He said, this is a person, he wants to learn Quran. You are taught Quran, you go ahead and teach him. So this teacher of Quran, sits down on, because he only is a good teacher as far as the recitation of Quran is concerned. He may not be well versed in depth analysis of Quran. He may not have that tafsir of it, but he's just a good teacher of Quran. So he sits down with this man, this Bedouin, and he's teaching him Quran. The first surah that they recite is Surah Zilzal. The last two ayat, when this man recites, he said, repeat after me. What are the ayat? فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرٍ يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرٍّ يَرَى. This man recites these ayat, he says, that's it. He said, this is the first chapter of Quran, the first chapter that I'm teaching you. That's it. Closed the Quran and left. This man came back to Rasulullah saying, Rasulullah, Ajib, student you sent to me. The guy didn't have, he didn't even last one day. He studied one chapter of Quran, closed it, and he said, I've read enough. And he left. He said, what did you teach him? That we talked about Surah Zilzal. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرٍ يَرَى. These are the words of Rasulullah. He said, رَجَعَ فَقِيهًا. This man returned back a faqih. Faqih is given a title to someone who spent 20, 30, 40 years in Hawza Ilmiya to become a faqih. Right? Tafaqquh fi din, as ayat of Surah Tawbah talk about it, 122, or tafaqquh fi din, is something which is pondering in religion. Pondering in religion does not happen in a second or two, in a class or two, in a Jummah or two. Rather, it takes years of understanding. Rasulullah said, Raja'a faqihan. The effects of the ayat of Quran and the belief in the day of judgment and knowing that there is qayamat and the precise, accountability on the day of judgment, that any atom worth of good will be shown to you and any atom worth of evil will be displayed in front of you, made this man faqih overnight. Change his perspective about religion, deen, life, everything changed. And lastly, a believer in the resurrection, in the way of Allah, endures the most severe difficulties and even passes through the life of this world to reach the happiness of the hereafter. Like the sorcerers who, when they saw the miracle of Hazrat Musa ﷺ, knew that he was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What we were doing was just to mislead people. What Hazrat Musa did was definitely a miracle. They all believed in his risalat right away. Those people, if you had sat in front of them, giving them evidences after evidences, to providing proof of the existence of Allah, providing proof that there's a day of judgment, they would not have put an ear to what you're saying. But the moment they see what Hazrat Musa ﷺ did by striking his asa and devouring all of their they were ropes basically, their snakes, right away they understood that what this man did is something which is extraordinary. It's not something which is just an illusion. Rather, it is a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So right away they said what? We believe in the Rabb of Musa wa Harun. Even though Pharaoh said to him, I will cut off your hands and your feet and hang you. They said in response, فَقَضِي مَا أَنْتَ قَاضٍ إِنَّمَا تَقْضِي هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا إِنَّا آمَنَّا بِرَبِّنَا لِيَغْفِرَ لَنَا خَطَايَانَا وَمَا أَكْرَهْتَنَا عَلَيْهِ مِنَ السَّحْرِ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. Surah Taha 72. Decide whatever you want to decide. Do whatever you want to do. You can only decide about the life of this world, but our Rabb will decide about the life of the hereafter. You only may have control in this worldly life, so you can go ahead and cut off our feet if you want to do so. If you want to hang us, go ahead. You can only decide for the life in this world. But the hereafter, which is the eternal abode, our Rabb is the one who will make all the decisions in regards to that. So on the contrary, those who do not believe, it will be said to them, those whose efforts are misguided in the life of the world, while they suppose they are doing good, because that is also sometimes an illusion that people exist in, that they think in themselves that they are doing good. On the day of resurrection, we will not give them any weight whatsoever. So belief in them Qiyamah and the Day of Judgment is one of the eternal and important vital beliefs in our Usul-e-Din. So this is sort of like a completion of a crash course on the understanding of Usul. So we started with Tawheed and we concluded with Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Since it is the ayyam and the days in which we celebrate the prosperous birth of Maulana Muttaqiyan, I wanted to share one tradition from Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam about the fadail of Amirul Mu'mineen. This hadith, of course, is found in both the books of Ahl Tasannun wa Ahl Tashayyu, where it is narrated by Ibn Abbas, who narrates from Rasulullah. He said, Rasulullah said to Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ya Ali, innaka takhasimu fatakhsam bisab'i khisalin laysa li'ahadin mithlahunna. O Ali, indeed you can dispute and challenge people with 7 qualities that none other than you possess. There are 7 qualities that only you possess and no one other than you possess them. Anta awwalul mu'minin ma'i imanan wa'a'adhamuhum jihadan wa'a'lamuhum bi'ayatillah wa'awfahum bi'ahdillah wa'ar'afahum birra'iyyah wa'aqsamahum bis-sawiyyah wa'a'adhamahum indal maziyyah. He says what? He said, Oh Ali, you can take pride and you can challenge and dispute anyone regarding these 7 sifat which no one other than you possess. What are these? Of course, when Rasulullah is saying this kalam, he's saying this kalam in reference to Ali and everyone else. Rasul is above all of these things, so you can exclude Rasul's Zat from these sifat. He is at the maximum level of all of these sifat. But he said, Oh Ali, when it comes to you and others, you are at the highest level when it comes to these sifat. What are these things? You are the first one to believe in me, with me in faith. Meaning what? You are the first one to stand besides me, behind me, even in Ghar Hira, offering this salat, while no one else in the world knew about salat. What is salat? No one can say, well, I can challenge that, I can dispute that. No one can dispute that when it comes to the salat of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Number 2, I don't have time, so I'll just go through the translation. The greatest of them in jihad, and that speaks for itself. That tells you that hadith is not in the early days of Islam. This hadith is said in the later days of Islam, when the battles of Badr and Uhud and Khaybar and Khandaq and Hunain have already taken place, and Ali has already shown his skills in jihad, and that is the reason Rasulullah is saying that you are what? A'azamuhum jihadan. Number 3, he says, وَعَالَمُهُمْ بِآيَاتِ O Ali, you are the most knowledgeable of them about the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why won't be the case that Ali is someone who says himself in Nahjul Balagha that I know when this ayat was revealed. Was it revealed on the dry or the wet surface? Was it revealed in this land or another land? I knew everything before and after of that ayat. So he is the best of the mufassirin of the ayat of Quran is concerned. وَأَوْفَاهُمْ بِأَهْدِ اللَّهِ O Ali, you're the most fulfilling of them in the covenants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So any covenant that Allah takes from you and I, O Ali, you are the one who is awfa, most fulfilling of them. You are the most compassionate of them when it comes to your subjects and your ra'iyah. The fairest of them as far as the equality is concerned, although Ali ruled for only 4 years. And the greatest of them in the virtues near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the 5 things that Rasulullah mentioned, 7 things that Rasulullah mentioned in regards to the afdaliyat and the alamiyat of Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. Of course, this is just one, drop from the immense fadail of this individual, which we cannot encompass if we spoke about it for years and years and years. And so much has been written in this reference, yet still people have hard time believing in the fadail and the kamalat of Amirul Mu'mineen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these days and these nights in which we celebrate and commemorate his prosperous birth, to give us the ability to do tamassuk to Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. O Allah, make us amongst the mutamassikeen bi wilayat Amirul Mu'mineen, inshallah, here and in the hereafter. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us and to do the mahshur with Amirul Mu'mineen on the day of judgment, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we fulfill our covenant to the children of Ali, especially Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. O Allah, hasten the reappearance of our awaited Imam and make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam in the Asl Hadith. Wa ablagh al-mu'idha kitabullahi a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim wal asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم. سبحان من سبقت رحمته وذب وبسط اليدين بالرحمة. سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وعفى عن السيئات ولم يجاز بها. سبحان من لا يزداد على معاصي العباد إلا كرما وجودا ولا كثرة الذنوب إلا عفوا والصفحا. نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو لطوف للعباد بجوده والعفو للمذنبين بحلمه. ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين. ألا قد أمركم الله في محكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا لصفيه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبذات خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليه وعلى الحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء ولي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر ولي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي ولي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان ما ياثر البدء والطغيان هادم ابن الشرك والنفاق حاسد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آباء الكرام اتصلت الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمراء المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أحل ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أحله بجاه محمد وآل المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. يذكر فتن فذكرى إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين، وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا، بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائمة. قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين بجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر.
الله ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. تسبيح جناب فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. All of us together. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة لابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jummah Mubarak to you all. Let's recite the Surah Fatiha for the marhumin of today's Jummah sponsors. The sponsors are Dr. Tahseen, Brother Tawsif Ali Uppal, and Brother Hassan Abbas. Please recite Surah Fatiha for their marhumin, including Shabbir Hussain, Fawzia Ali Uppal, Riaz Ali Uppal, Syed Ishtiyaq Hussain Rizvi, Maulana Tilmiz Hassan Rizvi, and all the marhumin and mu'minin mu'minat. Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sirat al-Mustaqim. Sirat. An'amta alayhim. Ali. Wala. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Just a few announcements for upcoming events. Inshallah, tomorrow, Saturday, January 27th at 4 p.m., we will be commemorating the Majlis for the Wafat of Janab Hazrat Zainab bint Ali Salamullahi alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. 15th of Rajab marks the Wafat of Bibi Zainab Salamullahi alayha. So inshallah we'll have the Majlis, Saturday being the day of 15th. And Majlis will inshallah conclude with Namaz-e-Maghrib, which is around 5:30. So sharp 4 o'clock. As you've seen the programs, when we give the time, we start right on time. Inshallah, I'll start on time and conclude with Namaz-e-Maghrib. That'll be tomorrow. Also, you might have seen on the TV screen on the foyer, event called it's a theatrical story time, face paint, henna, bounce house giveaways, and pizza and more on February 10th, Saturday. You can register. The Ilyas and Duck Show. This is, of course, hosted by Sadiq School, and a good activity for young kids. More details could be found by scanning that QR code that is displayed on the screen outside, inshallah. There are more majalis, inshallah, that are coming up, dates of the shahadat of our 7th Imam, Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salatu wassalam, and other dates, inshallah. Just tentatively, that will be around February 5th and February 6th, February 4th and February 5th. That'll be Sunday and Monday. It's still far away, so just keep in mind, heads up, inshallah. We usually have a big majlis for our 7th Imam, and even if it may falls on a weekday, make sure that we can plan ahead of time so we can attend that majlis. And that's as far as the announcements are concerned. Saturday and Sunday we have Salatul Fajr starting at 6 a.m. Join us for Quran Circle tomorrow morning, followed by a breakfast, and join us for Nahj Balagha discussion on Sunday morning, followed by breakfast. As is every Friday night, we have futsal and Quran Academy program at 6:30. It started 2 weeks ago. This 10-week program. Inshallah, if your kids are of that age, 6 to 12, bring them here, and they could take part in this Quran Academy. Afterwards, they can mingle with other kids and play in our beautiful gym. And of course, building bonds with the kids together. And the older kids, they also come afterwards and they play at the gym as well. So that happens every Friday. You don't need to remind you. Every Friday that is happening, starting at 6:30, 7 o'clock. Please, 7 o'clock, okay. 7 o'clock, inshallah, tonight. Let's recite Dua al-Sahat for all of the people in the need of dua. Those who are suffering, struggling, going through difficult time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring them out of their difficulties, including the following: Rabab Hussain Meghani, Khurshid Merchant, and Murtaza Chagani. Please recite this ayah karima with me 5 times. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء 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 ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض إله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. Proceed to Salatul Asr. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد تسبيح اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا من أرجوه لكل خير وآمن سخطه عند كل شر يا من يعطي الكثير بالقليل يا من يعطي من سأله يا من يعطي من لم يسأله ومن لم يعرفه تحننا منه ورحمة أعطني بمسألتي إياك جميع خير الدنيا وجميع خير الآخرة واصرف عني بمسألتي إياك جميع شر الدنيا وشر الآخرة فإنه غير منقوص ما أعطيت وزدني من فضلك يا كريم يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا ذا النعماء والجود يا ذا المن والطول حرم شيبتي على النار بحق محمد وآله الأطهار